Everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Somerville Job Creation and Retention Trust meeting of January 29th, 2026. My name is Annika Van Eaton. I am one of the co-managing trustees of the Job Creation and Retention Trust Board, and I call this meeting to order at 6:42. I am going to go through some procedural things. We'll call roll and then we'll get into the discussion. I'd like to welcome the members of the public who joined us this evening. So on March 28th, 2025, Governor Healy signed into law a bill that extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 20th, 2027. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue to hold meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This session is in a virtual format, is being recorded, and will be a public record. So I will now ask the board members to confirm that they are in attendance in alphabetical order. Tom Bent. Not yet. Vicky Coitz.
Here.
Silvana Dinka. Yet. Jim Hetchy.
Here.
All right. Jacob Luria indicated he'd be absent. Councillor Wilfred Mba. Rachel Ned Carney.
Here.
Annika Van Eaton here, and Rand Wilson.
Here.
All right, so that brings us to quorum, and I will now ask city staff to walk us through some pieces with the technology. William, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Annika. Hi, everyone. My name is William Blackmer, and I am the Workforce Development Coordinator here for the City of Somerville, and also serve as the staff liaison to the Job Creation and Retention Trust. When a meeting is or when an agenda item is being presented, presentation materials received ahead of time will be displayed on the screen. If the chair asks for public comment, please use the raise hand function if you would like to speak, and you will be unmuted and given 2 minutes to speak. Trust members, all votes must be roll call votes with a motion and a second, and the chair will call on each board member for a yes/no vote in alphabetical order. Please note that any comments typed into the chat box will be a part of the public record in accordance with open meeting law, and one-to-one chat has been disabled also in order to comply with public records law. So I will pass it back to Annika for the first agenda item.
Thanks, William. So our first agenda item is about the minutes from the last meeting. So William shared out the December 18th meeting minutes, and I want to see if anyone has any edits or revisions that you want to make before we vote to approve them. If not, I will welcome a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Tom.
Second.
All right, second. I will now roll call and folks can vote. Tom Bent.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Annika. Yes. And Rand. Rand, are you having a mute issue?
Sorry about that. Yes.
All right. Minutes are approved. And so our next topic is we always check in on where we are with funds. So William, I'll turn it over to you to cover an update on our linkage fees. And you're on mute. Oh.
Okay. Here we are. Can you see me and the screen?
I can. It's a really fun visual effect.
Awesome. I'm playing around with some different effects tonight.
Oh, cool.
So here we have um, the updated spreadsheet on received and estimated linkage fees for 2026. Of note here is that the current uncommitted balance for the trust is currently approximately $2.56 million. In addition to that, there is approximately $500,000 that we are anticipating from the 74 Middlesex Ave project, and we will be invoicing the developer for that shortly. Currently, the trust is not projecting any funds to be received other than that this year and then in the subsequent years. So happy to take any questions on that, on any of the numbers I've talked about here.
Thanks, William. Does anyone have any questions?
William, on that one, is that the last payment?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
what I
that'll
thought.
be 2 of 2 there, and then
That's right.
just for clarity's sake, the one below that is the 15 McGrath project. So they paused construction. We got the first payment a few years ago, but we're not anticipating another one at this time.
Thanks, William. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So anchored in our financial picture, we have we're going to review our programs. So the active programs and upcoming programs. We just selected several to receive funding. And we have a spreadsheet on this as well. It's got very like I don't know, like I'm watching the news and you're like running through the numbers vibe. It's fun. It's fun. Alrighty.
Okay,
Over to you,
great.
William.
So we have a few things to flag in tonight's agenda. Regarding active programs, we have one program, the Mass Hire Metro North Youth Pac-Man training, that is requesting a no-cost extension through March of 2026. So we have that on our agenda tonight as an item to be voted on. A few other updates on active programs is that I'm happy to share that the 4 programs in the bottom part of the blue section, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but those are all programs that were awarded funds in our last RFP round in October. They include the Nibble Culinary Entrepreneurship Program, AACA's Building Maintenance Program, Bunker Hill Contextualized English Language Learning Program, and Scaled Contextualized ESOL and Certified Nursing Assistant Program. Those programs have all launched, and regarding the other programs that were awarded at time, I am meeting with several of the grantees in the green section there to discuss program launches in the next coming weeks and months. So most of the programs that have recently launched and are launching soon will extend into late 2027 or into 2028, as you can see in the expiration column. And Annika, I realized I kind of went out of order a little bit, but do we want to jump back to the Mass Hire vote before going down to?
Let's do just a full update and then we can loop back to the vote.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might note, folks, that on our spreadsheet, Tech Goes Home is in red. Unfortunately, we got some sad news, which is that Tech Goes Home, which was an awardee in our most recent RFP round, has notified us that their organization is winding down operations by early February, um, which is sad news to hear about an organization doing good work. So obviously the implications for our board is that they will no longer be able to deliver the work readiness for the SHA residence program. And I think we'll have to think about, what we do with these funds going forward. William, if you want to share the precise amount that had been awarded and the implications for that RFP, that would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Annika. So yeah, this is news, sad news that was recently shared with us about their organization. As you may remember, they were awarded $50,414.40. You may not have remembered the exact amount actually, but that was awarded to Tech Goes Home as part of the $950,414.40 that was awarded out of the total RFP for $1 million. So $1 million was available in the fall 2025 RFP. Approximately 950,000 was awarded, and in this case, the 50,000 that was awarded to Tech Goes Home will no longer be able to deliver that project as planned. So, given that circumstance, this is leaving $100,000 from that most recent RFP. And in determining a path forward with these funds, it seems logical for the trust to consider reissuing an RFP for this $100,000 in an open RFP round. But we do want to discuss this update with the board and take questions on that. For a little bit of context, actually, we can pause there and take a question and then continue the discussion on that. So
thanks, William. Tom, you have a question?
Yes. Why would we have to go back out? Couldn't we look at the RFPs and then decide, if we could then award it, or even if the group that we would award it to would still want to take it? It seems like we've already gone through this process. I know, there was debate as to, distributing, those funds. Some people had some favorites one way or the other, back and forth. So, I would be, if we can do it, I would want to relook at the ones that were still in contention, that we had gone, already reviewed and all that. And, but that's just my thought on that, instead of going back out through the process, which is going to take a lot of time. And, it'd be good to get this money out.
I'm seeing Vicky in the chat is saying she agrees with Tom. Rachel?
Yeah, my thought on it is there's definitely an argument for that I can agree with. My thought on why going out again makes sense is that would also give the Somerville Housing Authority, who was a partner on that, an opportunity to find a new partner and continue on with this kind of program. If we go back to just our list that we had before, that we wouldn't be giving them an opportunity to pursue it. The other thing is we only have, we would be down to 100,000. And if we have our next projects on the list, we're all at the 150,000 or more level, we wouldn't be able to, we would have to necessarily not choose them versus giving those organizations who had applied at 150,000 or $200,000 level an opportunity to come in with something that's at the $100,000 range.
Thanks, Rachel. I would actually like us to pause on this. So one of the things that we're talking about this year is a strategic planning discussion for how we want to spend our year. So in the fall, we had put out $1 million RFP and we got a lot of applicants and then we spent it out. Orgs put together a ton of proposals and now there's a lot of money out. If we're going to re-up an RFP for, in comparison to $1 million, only $100,000, I think it's worth us as a board stepping back and thinking about why we would do a much smaller RFP so hot on the heels of a big RFP, especially during a year when we didn't think we would be doing any more RFPs. I just think that within the context of the money we have out, the money we have obligated, the understanding that there is not going to be any money for several years, which I know the board expressed a lot of concerns about, I think what could be helpful is to pull this conversation back a little bit from just talking about the 100,000 and think about it within the context of the year. So I know that everyone has hands up, and I would ask that we would hold our comments so that we can do the no cost extension vote, because I do want to make sure we do that while there's quorum, since at least one person has to leave early, so that we can move that forward. And then have more of a thinking about this year. And then I would really welcome folks' thoughts on this $100,000 that, you know, half of which was going to go towards this program and thinking about the needs in the community. And then also, as Vicki mentioned, the burden on asking nonprofits to submit more proposals if it's going to be for small. So I think there's like a lot of implications here beyond solely the 100,000 that I'd like us to be talking about as we're thinking about the year. So please write your thoughts down so we don't forget them, because I am keenly interested in them. And we've got some questions here that are a little bit more logistical as well. So I think that that's worth getting into. And then thank you for capturing those in the chat. So could we go to our no cost extension? So Metro North Workforce Board pre-apprenticeship program has a grant, and they, let's see. I think you included the letter, right, William, in the attachments, requesting a no cost extension for the youth Pac-Man training. And it's really just about ensuring that they have time to place their, that folks are placed in jobs, and they've had some great success so far. And then there's a few other things. So it seems like people have finished the program, and this is more about ensuring the support through employment. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, William? And thanks for pulling up the letter. It's great.
I pulled up the letter. Just want to also add that we have Danielle Osterman on the call tonight from Math Hire. So we've been communicating about this request, and she's joining us tonight. If there's questions I might not be able to answer, we can field them to her as well. So thanks, Danielle.
Welcome, Danielle. Thank you for joining. Do board members have any questions? Rachel?
I actually had a question for William and Danielle. I see that there's 4 students who are on track for placement, and wanted to just get a sense from the contracting perspective if that would bring you to the conclusion of it, or if there would be funding that would be left on the table if there's not if there's funding available for Metro North, if they've placed a 5th or a 6th person, and we wouldn't know that answer until like June, right? Like, is there if a longer extension would give you all the capacity to continue working with more students?
Danielle, if you'd like to jump in, or I can jump in, I'm okay with either.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so Rachel's mentioning the 2 that have begun full-time employment, the 2 that are set to begin jobs, did begin jobs in January and are set to retain in February. So Rachel, I think this is answering your question. The goal for the program if I'm remembering correctly, is for 8 participants to retain 30 days. So the hope in the extension is that essentially by March 1st, hopefully, 4 of the 5 students that are actively job searching would be able to be placed so that they could retain by the end of March. And, if there is thinking that might benefit from being extended, then we could look at a date later than March 31st. But Danielle, is there anything you'd like to add on that?
Nope, I think you answered it perfectly. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just kind of curious, what type of companies have the ones that have been working? Are they, what type of construction companies are they working for?
Yeah, so I can tell you we have 2 at like property maintenance companies, one at an electrical company, and another at like a airport service technician company.
Great. Great. And yeah, I agree. Looking at the letter, first of all, it's the winter, which is always difficult for construction, but also, there is definitely a construction slump out there. I know it was funny talking to people in my company today. They're starting to see more activity starting to churn for the spring. So hopefully that'll be so. I'd be fine to go, like Rachel was saying, if you wanted even a longer extension. I think that would, I don't have any problem with that. To help them, acquire employment.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I agree as well.
If it's okay, Annika, so I guess Danielle, I would be curious, do you feel like the March 31st is an end date you'd like to work with, or do we want to consider a date later than that to give a little bit more time to your team?
If the trust is open to a little bit more time, we'd gladly take it. So thank you.
Yeah.
I might make a motion to do an extension to say June 30th. Within the same fiscal year, but allowing for capturing that spring pickup of business.
I'd second that motion.
Second. All righty. We have a motion on the floor for a no cost extension to June 30th. 2026. I will now ask the board members to go through and vote. Tom Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coitz,
Yes.
Jim Hetchy,
Yes.
Rachel Ned Carney,
Yes.
Annika, yes, and Rand Wilson.
Yes. And I apologize to everybody, but I'm double booked here and gonna have to bail. I really regret not being able to stay for our conversation about the rest of the year and strategic plan, but look forward to reading the notes.
Have a good evening, Rand. Okay, the measure passes, and so the no cost extension will be going to June 30th. I see a cat has arrived. I hope the cat approves. And William will take care of the next steps on that.
Great. Thank you all so
Thanks,
much.
William.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you,
You
Danielle.
too.
Have a good evening. All right. Before we look forward, we have a looking back moment where included in the meeting materials was the annual report of the JCRT, looking at our work from July 2024 to June 2025. And it's going to be shared with everyone who came to our annual meeting last year and also put on the website. And I want to thank and commend William for his work on putting this together. I always appreciate seeing the work of the grantees and the impact that they're making on Somerville residents. And I am grateful for the work that they're doing, the work that we're able to support, and appreciate you, William, for your deft storytelling and making it very clear about the different things happening. And I hope that we can share that impact with the public and with the folks who are paying the linkage fees, and so we can see that this is useful for our community. So I encourage everyone to check it out if you have not yet. Share it, tell your friends, colleagues in the city. And yeah, thanks, William, for putting that together. I know it's a thorough project. We appreciate your work on it.
Thanks, Annika.
Okay, so now that brings us to our conversation for today around thinking about what we're going to be doing. So there's a couple different things that I have on my mind that I want to put out there for folks to have on your mind, and then I'm also interested in people's perspectives on both where we want to be thinking about going over the next couple years, and then also what we want to be doing during this time in this year. So we know that after this next payment, we're not anticipating bringing in any other funding for the next uncertain amount of time. So we have the money that we have, and we have an idea of what that is. We know the funds that are out, the money that we recently awarded. And so I think and then we have this question on the table of the grant that we made that isn't able to be used for the work that was intended. So that's sort of a short term, or a near term rather, could be a near term discussion. And I saw some logistical questions in the chat that I want to loop to. But big picture, want us to be thinking about, what would be our timeline for if we do another big open RFP, thinking about when we would want to do that and what factors would influence when we want to do that. Thinking about federal funding picture, thinking about trickle down / direct effects on the state funding picture, thinking about, we usually have annual labor market information presentations. So I think we'll also want to have another one of those close to when we decide to put more money out. So I think that's something for us to keep in mind. Of course, there's a new administration in Somerville. So I think one of our goals with the board is to, be sort of augmenting the work that the city, being in concert and complement of what the city's focus is. And so I think this is also some context that will be important for our planning of understanding what the new administration's approach to workforce development will be. And then the big potential employer, Transmedics, coming into Somerville. So there's that factor as well. So those are some, things in the ecosystem that I think we as a board are going to want to think about the timing that we engage with learning about these things to inform what types of RFPs that we'll want to put out. And then of course there's the, monitoring of the grants that are out, thinking about what role we want to continue to play in that. And so that's like big picture that I want to bring to the group. And I think we could start with answering some of these logistical questions that folks have raised about the money that went out to Tech Goes Home. And then I'd be interested in hearing about, kind of where that goes, how folks are thinking about this within the context of the bigger year, not solely just within the context of the specific project too. But I think one question that Vicki shared, and then Jim plus one here, is can we renegotiate with the remaining partner, the housing authority? Because if they were on the original grant, it seems like Yeah, I think that's a good question. But I don't remember how the grant and the contract was constructed.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit, and it's also something we can do a little more research into after this call. The application was led by Tech Goes Home, and so the vote that we made was an award to Tech Goes Home, which is why, I have paused with that as a solution. I think something else to note is that Tech Goes Home was providing the digital literacy instruction for the training, which is a big component of the program. So I don't want to assume necessarily that Somerville Housing Authority on its own has that in-house expertise to still run the same program with the same budget, serving the same amount of participants. So that's something I can look back and see if we have any precedent, but I think that those were kind of the reasons why that wasn't like the go-to solution.
Vicky.
I guess if the housing authority is able to find a new partner that delivers that digital literacy, then they would maybe able to still deliver the same type of program. Because that's what I was thinking. I feel like
Yeah.
we voted, I mean, yes, we voted to award a contract to Tech Goes Home, but I think I was more voting to fund that type of project, a digital literacy project with, these types of partners. So yeah, I'd really be interested in some possible research on that because if we have a good idea for a program, a good model, and if one of the partners is able to find another partner that does same type of work, I think we'd still be interested in funding that type of project.
Tom.
So would that require, though, if we did something like that, we'd have to put it out a new RFP, I would assume, right? We couldn't just award somebody, a new partner, the money. It would have to go through the whole process again, wouldn't it?
That's part of what we might need to look into is if we have any precedent of doing that in the past. I'm not aware of a time that we've done that and given funds to a partner that was not the lead partner. I do want to mention just an alternative as well is if I can go back to 100,000, or if we want to keep the conversation away from that, Annika, but there could also be the options of putting out a targeted RFP if the board is really interested in funding that type of program. But we did want to also just acknowledge that there were other organizations that put together proposals. So it's really kind of hard to know about the feasibility of the project when the main partner walks away from it. So I think that's all I'll say on that for right now.
Just my concern there is credibility with the other people that submitted during that RFP period. Because they were part of the process. Yep, we did award it to Tech Goes Home. They can't do it now. So I could see the others looking at it like, well, then why aren't you revisiting what we did? Because it was all part of that package that we were putting out. So to me, I'm worried about credibility. Yeah, if the housing authority could come up with another partner, but my guess here is Tech Comes Home probably approached the housing authority and said, hey, we would like to partner with you on this grant. So whether or not the housing authority, I do have experience there because I was with them for a long time, whether or not they would have, the wherewithal or capability to go out and try another fund. They might be able to, but typically the different partners that the housing authorities had over the years is most of them are with groups that were in the city, like the Welcome Project or SCC or CAS. Those are the typical ones that would tie in with. So this was a little different, where it was a different agency. But yeah, my concern here is credibility. I don't want to annoy, the other people that did the RFP, because they put a lot of work and effort into this also. So, that's just kind of where I'm landing on it.
Make some good valid points, Tom.
Rachel.
I think where I've gotten stuck on it is I've been in the same place that Tom was, I think is how where I had gotten to it is that if we go super targeted, we risk our other applicants. And then I went next to the place that we were starting to talk about before of well, then let's just go back to our list and see if there's another, who was next. And I don't know if we had it quite ranked that way. But look back at who wasn't who hadn't been funded that would fit within the remaining funds and fund one more project. Then I got stuck though on, well, then you're necessarily leaving out the possibility of the housing authority putting together a new partnership from being able to be considered again. And so that's where my third or fourth round through, where I'm at the moment is what feels like to me like the right direction is to do a new basically re-release the same RFP and say, please submit your same application if that's applicable, or entertain a new project.
Dana.
Thanks, Annika. If I may, one consideration that I think might be useful to review for this board is, while acknowledging that many other applicants submitted proposals for this RFP, there's the risk in not issuing an RFP and just going ahead and awarding to another set of applicants of being perceived as unintentionally making a preferential selection without any basis for that reward or that award. So what the benefit of putting out a new RFP indicates to the larger world that there is a process, that there is the opportunity for those entities that want to submit to then be considered accordingly, and then you all as a body have the ability to sort of make the objective decision one way or the other. And if it turns out that an organization is able to do the kind of program that is in keeping with what was put forward before, that's great. But then you have the ability to say that you've gone through an actual review, and it is an unassailable process that you can point to. And I say that acknowledging the fact that yes, there are previous submissions, but there were not those previous submissions were for an RFP that was put out and voted upon, and that process is closed. So it's cleaner to reissue, notwithstanding the fact that yes, there's a time constraint that's there, but it is cleaner for the board to have issued an RFP.
Thanks for your thoughts, Dina. Vicky?
Yeah, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that about what's kind of the cleanest, less risky move to make. And actually for me, it seems like it's just to say, okay, that RFP process is closed. Okay, we lost one of the grantees, and just think anew about, what's our next move with our large RFP. And I've kind of been thinking that, maybe we just should sort of follow Boston's lead and do $1 million RFP every year, kind of on an annual cycle, in order to reduce the burden on our nonprofit partners having to write too many proposals, in order to have some kind of consistency for the staff. So that way William's not continuing to chase proposal RFPs and proposals. Um, and I'd be really, really hesitant to put out a small RFP for $100,000, especially given the funding climate right now, because I think a lot of organizations will be applying for that money. There's going to be a lot that have to get turned down because it's such a small amount, and it's a pretty big burden on the board members to have to review a lot of proposals that are probably going to have to get turned down. So I guess I'm saying let's close the chapter on this one and accept the loss and focus on, what's our next big move with a more substantial RFP similar to what we issued last fall.
Um, yeah, I'm fine with that. I think, it's disappointing that, this didn't go through. Again, and I understand, I agree, Vicky, with what you're saying. I'm just, again, I'm feeling a little sympathetic to the people that did submit, because if we had known, like, say this happened a week after we awarded it, would we still be saying what we're saying now, or we would just go back to, the other people there? But this is, and William, I don't think you'll find anything like this. I don't remember this ever happening before. Yeah, but if everyone thinks it's the cleanest way to do this, then fine. And like you say, we close it out and move forward. But that's my biggest concern was, you know, um, how these, and again, a lot of these nonprofits are struggling. So some of them might say, hey, a 50,000 or 100,000 might get us through. But I think, listening to the arguments, I'd be okay with just holding on the money and then put it into the bigger pot for the next set of RFPs.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Vicky. Rachel?
I am starting to come around to this idea also of waiting. I think one of the other things that we were debating last year was what's the right timing to do a big RFP like this. And holding might give William a chance to catch up with all the other 9, and let us all think a little bit strategically about how much time we need to build back if we wanted to be able to give our grantees an opportunity for a January program launch, or if we wanted to be able to give them a timing for like a fall semester program launch. Like, what's the right timing for our next open one? I think is a really good question for us to debate too.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I think we've had some challenges in the past with the way that our grant release timing has ended up opening vis-a-vis some of the likely applicants who operate on a semester basis. And so I think reflecting on the timing of our RFPs and the timing of when like a lot of programs start, and understanding there's different cycles and different lengths, but I think it does seem like it would be ideal to aim for a time that would be like generally optimal for the most number of potential providers, and then also make sure that we're really giving a long runway for folks to fill out the applications and things like that. I think that's also, like, I feel really disappointed for this program that's not going to have that element from Tech Goes Home. I do worry about kind of putting something out that is going to be a scramble to fill out. Are we like what would we be basing our targeting on? We've just presented our vision to a whole public forum at the end of last year and talked about how we're releasing things that are going to be more about organizations meeting what they need or meeting, what am I saying? They're going to be more open-ended so that folks can apply for what they need, whether it's maintenance because they're not getting funding from other sources that they typically were, or it's, capacity building, like these different things, right? We just stated to the field that we were going to be flexible and that we were going to be putting fewer RFPs out to a pretty big group of the members of the public. And then for us to just 2 months later turn around a very relatively, I mean, no, I work for a nonprofit, 100K is not nothing. It's a good solid amount. At the same time, if we've just said we're going to be putting out these bigger program sustaining amounts that are flexible, and then we immediately do the exact opposite of that in something that's targeted and something that will not have a long runway for people to apply for, just unless we did. And then that would be why are we waiting 3 months to do something very targeted that's not even a topic that we had talked about at the public hearing, the public forum? It just seems like it doesn't give us it just seems like it kind of undermines the entire strategy that we shared with the public and then received feedback that it's helpful for the field to not have to jump through very narrow hoops right now because they're trying to get general operating and things like that to maintain their programs and continue to deliver things. Vicky, go ahead.
Completely agree, Annika. And if we think about, it seems like a fall start would work best for most of the potential applicants. I know that last time we tried for a January start and that seemed to work well, but I kind of remember some of the semester-based programs saying that they could probably enroll more students if they had a fall start versus a winter start. So I think I would be leaning towards a fall 2026 start. And if we work backwards from that, we need about 2 months from the time we select a program to the time we contract and they can enroll people. I think 2 months is almost a minimum for that. And then give them 2 months to write their proposals. So we're talking September minus 4 months. That's April or May is when we'd need to drop the next RFP in order to have a fall start if we all agree with that. So basically our next RFP is almost right around the corner anyway.
If we do one this year. Rachel?
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I think if we want to aim for a fall semester start, we need a 6-month runway. Because you need review time for the board, which probably needs 2 months. The signature process and the contracting process it takes a long time. And so I think William, right, it's 2 months is a minimum. It's probably more like 2 to 3. So, and summer always makes it a little slower. So it's just because you need so many people to sign things. So you're right. I think we might be at to me, it's a late March, April launch if we were trying for this fall. But we also did put out all of our programs for a 2-year cycle. So that's the other thing that I'm thinking about with this program is that the Tech Goes Home program was $50,000 split over 2 years. And so it was necessarily kind of like a nested budget with something else, which probably makes it even harder to launch an alternative.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing on that is evaluating the programs that we have out there now. It'd be good to see how, the money that we've put out, how that kind of works out. So I'd almost be, thinking that we do this sometime next year, not in September. Because like Vicky just said, really, we would have to evaluate and then get it out by April or May, to have that runway that everyone's talking about. So, I'm thinking, let's evaluate what we just put out, see how well it works. Well, that might change our, how we want to put out the RFP, whether or not how successful it was, and then kind of go from there. So that might be, the fall of 27 that we would put it out. Unless, people want to kind of look at that winter, early spring. I don't know if we want to call it January or early spring, but again, those are my thoughts on it. Just to give us some time to evaluate. It's funny. We had almost a similar conversation today on a state board, transportation board I'm on, is trying to evaluate some studies that were in process, and they already want to do like the next phase of it, and we haven't even seen what the first phase looks like yet. So we said no, we're gonna wait. We want to do this the right way. So it's funny having this conversation twice in a few hours.
Thanks, Tom. And Rachel?
Tom, what you were saying also struck a little bit for me too, that like we could actually be looking at putting out an RFP in like November or December for next fall.
Yeah.
Because part of the other thing that I've been noticing is that there isn't a lot of, we have very limited gap right now between when they get their contract and when programs are supposed to start. So the actual advertising time and recruitment time is very limited. And so if we gave folks, and also program design, like some of the folks we're funding are still in program design when we're doing contracting. And so it's hard to be recruiting. You can't do like recruit and contract like and program design at the same time. So we actually might want to be looking at like a program start of 27, but really actually be doing our RFPs this fall so that we give people some capacity to get ready for students.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That would also extend their application time, like year gap. And I think we could be flexible as when the program starts. Like we're building around an academic year, but if folks are applying and they're like, well, our program actually starts in the beginning of the summer, then, we could try and have our timing such that we would make decisions. Like I think the like runway until the program would need to start, it's good to be longer. I don't think we need to like unnecessarily add gratuitous time to our decision-making process. I know that takes time and that's just like part of it, but I think we should still try and be concise with that so programs can plan and they're not waiting a long time. But the idea of making more buffer time for them to fill out the applications or the proposals and more buffer time for them to know the money is in hand and plan for their programs, that seems like it would be more supportive of the grantees and potential grantees.
I like it.
Okay. So if we were as a board moving towards the idea of releasing something at the end of this year for things that would start next year, I think I'd be interested in what types of sessions. So my vision here is that we don't need to like decide it right now, but I'd be interested in hearing from the board about what type of information would be helpful for you and when. And then I and fellow co-chair Vicky will meet with William and we want to put together a calendar to plan ahead and be like, okay, we're going to have our labor market presentation, depending on when mass hire can help us out, but September, October, or we want to have, we want to hear from a focus group of like that type of thing. And so we want to plan that out so that we can have a sense of a board of what information will be coming and when for our thinking and processing, and for William to help just sort of like schedule and bring people together with more time in advance. So we'd be interested in between now and towards the end of the year, what types of information or sessions would be useful for folks as far as thinking about, putting out an RFP and then feeling prepared to respond to the respondents. Rachel.
I think one thing that stands out, and I think Tom, you mentioned this too, is like interim reporting from current applicants. And so maybe we think about, as we're looking at all the current awardees, like what's the timeline for their first reports? And do we do a session that's just like pulling all of those together, and getting a sense of how that's going? But also, I know we had this conversation too around annual meeting time of like doing a look back and sort of pulling all of our like reports from all of the grantees in the past in one place. And maybe that's just like a homework assignment that we all have take on of like everybody read two and share out with each other of like, hey, this is how this Bunker Hill went. This is what the report said. This is like where they had challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so interim reports, love it. Other thoughts? Wait, Tom.
Thinking any kind of economic development reports, and also even a company like Transmedic, what their game plan is to start. They'd have to fit out the building. I don't know what they're I know they've even purchased, I think, the building, the land beside it to so that they can build another building later on, which is fantastic, because I think they want to have their manufacturing while there also. But I'd love to have a discussion with somebody maybe from Transmedic to say, what do you need? We have this training fund here. Is there, what type of positions would you be looking for? And then if we get a good idea of that, then we may structure an RFP around that. We would need to understand what their timeline is, but also maybe from we're speaking to Tom Galligani in economic development, because again, this all of a sudden came out of nowhere, but I'm sure it was in the planning. There was a lot of work going on this. The Globe had a little bit of a article about kind of how it all came down, which I'm sure it's been going on for like 4 or 5 months before we all found out about it, right, Rachel? So, and then the other thing I would like is to at some point have maybe a discussion with the mayor. We have a new mayor, right, and like to get his thoughts on economic development, where what he sees and what the plan is. I know with a lot of the developers that have basically empty lab buildings right now, one of their concerns is working with the new administration on things like incentives to bring companies into Somerville, like they did with Transmedic, but also marketing and things like that. So it'd be really interesting for us to maybe have a conversation with the new mayor, just to get thoughts on first of all, let him know what we're doing. I think they all know general, right? Being on the transition committee, that's part of what we did. We went out and got a lot of information and kind of we're submitting it back. So you can't be an expert in everything, right? So but maybe having that, it might be a good conversation to have, so that both sides understand what we do, but also what his thoughts may be. So a couple of things, and then any labor economic the reports that are coming out, construction reports, things like that. Usually the winter it's pretty dead, especially in construction. You start, like I said, our company was starting to see some activity with the estimating and pricing. So hopefully the spring will start being a little bit stronger. So, again, just kind of I figured we're just kind of spitballing here a little bit, and those are some of the things that I kind of been thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think understanding Transmedic and the hiring needs and sort of what the it would be great if Somerville residents are working over there, and so understanding that I think makes a lot of sense. I agree with you on understanding the administration's direction on workforce development, and then yeah, data and reports on the scene, the labor scene makes a lot of sense to me. Okay. Is there anything else that folks want to surface? This will not be our last. If you have other ideas during the year, I always welcome them. But I think this gives us a lot of fodder for thinking about the next several months. But I do want to see if anyone else has any thoughts that you haven't gotten to share. Rachel.
Sorry, I'm realizing I'm thinking, Jim, of your sphere and like what are we seeing at the high school? How is the CTE program going? Just like what are the gaps that might exist that are not we're struggling to fund. Like I'm thinking there might be a moment post budget, so like July, just to talk through school and city budgets of just sort of what has been funded and what, where there might be where we're seeing that there's a need that we haven't been able to figure out.
Okay. Yeah, we can discuss that. That's for sure.
Great.
Hopefully
Okay.
they'll be nice to me on my budget though.
Yeah, you can tune in Monday night. Jim and I are presenting to the school committee for the CTE program. So all good stuff, right, Jim?
All good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Catch Tom and Jim on Monday
7
night.
o'clock Monday night.
7 o'clock Monday night. Tune in. All right. Okay, well, if folks have other thoughts, please email William, and that we'll come to the next meeting with some ideas. But I'm hearing that it seems like we're at a consensus around that we are now moving towards the next big RFP, which will be another large RFP. And so that would mean moving the 54,000 back to the general pot.
Yep.
Of funds.
Yeah.
Rachel?
One thing we were reflecting on is thinking about bigger picture, other spheres, is that it might behoove us to sort of formalize the decision to unobligate. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, I think
in
we
those
have
votes before, but like because we also had the other 50,000 that was not awarded, like maybe just sort of saying putting a closure moment on it in a formal way.
Yeah,
I remember if we need to put that on next agenda or something.
Yeah, I think we could put that on since that would be a vote, we would want to give notice, and so we could put it on the next agenda. I think yes, we will formally vote, and we can put it on the next agenda. So, everybody, your perspectives are always valued, and the next meeting will have a vote, so we need to hit quorum. All right. Okay, so speaking of next meetings, I have a few potential dates that I want to check in with folks on. And then we want to talk about potential reoccurring meetings for 2026. So February is soon. And so the potential dates that we have on hand are Thursday, February 19th, continuing with our remote winter experience, and Monday, February 23rd. So could everyone check out your calendar and raise your hand if you're available February 19th for a virtual meeting? Okay, 1, 2. Tom. Jim, are you unavailable? Okay.
Yeah, it's February vacation. I'm not sure what I have going on, so
Okay.
I know I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not sure what the kids got.
I thought you said Aruba.
Right.
I heard.
I'll check with my wife. I'll let you know.
Okay. Now, if you could raise your hands for everyone who is available Monday, February 23rd. Is that like a maybe, Rachel? Or is that like okay?
I can most likely be there. I might be compromised by toddler.
Okay, got it. I wanted you to be like, I might be at Aruba, actually, coincidentally.
Not quite.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
if toddler eating dinner is acceptable, I can be there for votes and but I may be less vocally present.
Okay, okay, understood. So we've got
Family-friendly board.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The challenge of a dual city employee household.
Got it. Well, we are here to welcome the toddler and all viewpoints. Want to do some voting? Could be fun. Alrighty. So it looks like we'll need to survey the rest of our compatriots, but we've got 4.5 counting myself. I did the half as a maybe for Rachel. And then 4. No. Oh God. William, were you paying attention to the counts? No. Jim cannot make it on the 19th. Okay. So we have 4.
So it sounds like a slight preference for the
I feel
23rd
like
based
I didn't
on who's
count
here.
right.
Is that
I
right?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then looking at potential reoccurring meetings, wondering how folks feel about the third Tuesday of the month. I am gonna, William, thank you for listing all of these out on the notes here. And I'm just gonna throw this in the chat just for situational awareness on what dates are the third Tuesday of the month. And I understand that not everyone is going to be able to make every meeting, and that we probably don't all have our lives planned out through December 17th. So I'm not expecting everyone to check that. But I would love it if folks looked at this and they saw any like if you yourself have a reoccurring third Tuesday of the month, that would be a real flag for us. Or something like that. Yeah.
Tuesdays work for me.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I wrote Tuesday, but I meant Thursday.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
But you
Thursday.
but you wrote
Thursday.
Thursday, so I think we're okay.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, the top of the notes say Tuesday, and then I do see now that what I just put in the chat is Thursday. That was a test to see who's paying attention. Okay.
The only
Thursday,
thing
third Thursdays.
I think on the Thursdays, though, you're going to have a problem with our city council member because that, you'll run into city council meetings, won't you? Or is the third one? Is it this first and third? Or is it the second or fourth meeting for the city council?
I think it's the second and fourth
I think we looked at
generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can double check that. And
And
also
do we know
circulate these dates.
who the city council is going to be?
Yeah, so Councilor Mba is still a member of the board.
Okay.
So
All
no change there.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we picked third Thursday because it was the alternating on the city council, but we were definitely confirmed that. But otherwise, does the Thursdays generally work for most folks?
Yep.
Seeing nods. Okay.
I just pulled up the city council calendar for March, and they're the 12th and 26th. So second and fourth.
Great. Outstanding. Good job past us, William. Alrighty. Okay, then that brings us through our agenda. Thanks, everybody. We are gonna get calendar invites on these. Thanks, William. I think we'll be remote through March, just thinking about weather. And then I know I really value seeing folks in person. So as we start to unthaw, or as we start to unfreeze and thaw, shifting back to a hybrid would be a great way for us to go. Thanks all for thinking through our planning for this year and thinking about preparing for another RFP so we can thoughtfully disperse funds out to our field. And I'll remind everyone to amplify the impact report, share with everybody. And I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Right, a motion, Mr. Bent.
I'll second.
A second from the Monday Night School Committee duo. All right, we'll run it through. Tom Bent.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Annika. Yes. All right. We are adjourned at 7:51 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
everyone.
Have a good
Stay
night.
warm.
Stay
Stay
warm.
warm.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thanks.